Hi, and welcome to Be More Super, the podcast. I'm Brian, your host. Welcome back. If you're a subscriber of the show, thank you for your support. It means the world to me. And if you're new to the show, please hit subscribe and the bell button to show your support. So this week, we've got a great guest. He's starred in Halloween 2. He's been in Jaws of Revenge, and my personal favourite, The Last Starfighter. It's, of course, the wonderful Lance Guest. And as always, this show is brought to you by Prop Store. Prop Store is a wonderful company that supplies genuine, screen-used props and costumes from your favourite film and TV show. So please check them out on propstore.com, as they've got some awesome auctions coming up. So that's propstore.com. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the interview. And remember, if you're new, please hit subscribe and the bell button if you enjoy this interview. So on this week's episode of Be More Super, the podcast, we've got a great guest. He's been in Halloween 2, Jaws of Revenge, and my personal favourite, the Last Starfighter. And also, I'm going to be chatting to him a bit about becoming Johnny Cash, because, during research on guests, I find out something new every time, and I didn't realise that this guest portrayed Johnny Cash on Broadway. It's, of course, a wonderful Lance Guest. Lance, welcome to the show, sir.
Hello, great to be here.
And how has everything been for you in the past year? Because I always do a check-in with the guests, because it's been a rocky year, to be fair.
Yeah, I've I'm very lucky. I have a family, so I am not by myself, and they're my favorite people to hang out with. So I am not. I do not suffer the fate of other people that are maybe a little more isolated. And I live in a great place in California, and so yeah. I think sometimes people do need a little bit of time to sort of shut down a little bit, sort of. Depending on how crazy you interpret the world around you, and I sort of took that as a opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
So like you mentioned about Broadway. That was a pretty nonstop ride for about 4 years there.
Yeah.
So
hopefully, fingers crossed the pandemic will be over soon, and theatres can get back to work, because I think it's hit the industry so much. I mean, over this past year, how's everything been with you for auditioning or work-wise and keeping yourself busy?
I just haven't, I haven't done it. I just decided it's not worth it. It's not worth. There's so many protocols that people do. I have friends that are filming and they're doing stuff, but it's like they're getting vaccinated every other day, and they're not vaccinated, tested every other day, and it's until very recently with the vaccinations, it really was kind of sort of a climate of insecurity. So the U.S.
Have you been vaccinated yet?
So it's pardon.
Have you been vaccinated yet, or
I got my second coming up week. So my second one, and then I got to wait a couple weeks after that. But I'm pretty sure everybody else in my family is going to be done by like the end of the month. So
and fingers crossed, the more that gets vaccinated, you get that herd immunity going, and it will make the world a better place, and we can get back to going out with the family, because my girls are begging to go out, and I'm very restricted on what we can do with them. But yeah, I've got my second jab in a couple of weeks, so I had a bad reaction to my first one. My temperature was 40, and I was in bed for 2 days. But apparently that's normal.
Yeah, mine was fairly mild, but it was still a little freaky. Where are you from? Where are you Where are you broadcasting from? What part of the UK?
So I am from a small place called Mansfield, which is near Nottingham.
Oh,
So think Sherwood Forest, and I'm in the middle
yep.
of Sherwood Forest, where Robin Hood is from.
Is that near Staffordshire, or
It's
is that
not
am I
far.
totally?
Staffordshhire's about an hour and 20-minute drive.
Because my
So
relatives are the guests are from Staffordshire.
are they really?
At least the ones that I know about.
Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome.
So,
So you've got some English blood in you.
oh yeah, I have at least half English or varying parts of Welsh English. Half.
Mm.
I'm half. I'm a half Greek.
well, a lot don't realise that actually America isn't that old. America's only what is it 300 years old. So the majority of everyone in America came from Europe, came, over the boats like the Mayflower and Christopher Columbus days. So yeah. So right, Lance, let's get to the nitty gritty. Let's find out a bit more about you. So, with this career of acting, what possessed you to get into this industry? What was that kick to get you into acting? Why?
Well, I was very very lucky because I just sort of had like an actor personality when I was a kid. Like when I was starting at about actually quite young, probably 8 or 9 years old, I sort of had an actor personality. And people always said, "Oh, you're going to be an actor." And I used to memorize things all the time, and I used to memorize lines from movies and memorize entire comedy routines, and every song Bob Dylan ever recorded. And I basically I just had this sort of performance based personality when I was very young. And then I started doing plays when I was in middle school. And then I did a lot of plays in high school. I spent basically all my time in high school or secondary school, I guess you guys call it, doing plays. And then I was a theater. I went to UCLA and I was a theater major. So I did a bunch of plays then. And basically that was the thing I did. I played music. I was a guitar player. I am still a guitar player. And I did acting. So I pretty much did all that stuff for fun. And so I realized that it's actually harder in America to become an actor. It's not really
Mm.
there's not a lot of theaters. There's the theater industry. I've been over to the UK several times, and the theater industry seems to be like a legitimate job. Like you can go be an actor, you can go study, and
Mm.
then you get set someplace. And I know there's not jobs for everybody, but the theater is much stronger in the UK, and in America it's kind of not so much. So I always knew that it was a pretty low percentage job as far as making money,
Mm. Yeah.
um, because it is difficult, especially as a theater actor, to make money. Um, but then when I was in college, I had a couple of friends that knew somebody that did it and somebody that knew a manager or whatever. I didn't get involved in that, but I knew that it was possible, and I didn't really know anybody. I had a cousin that did it like 20, like 15 years before I did, but I I didn't really know anybody that had really gotten in there and done it.
Mm.
So I just did whatever I could. I in the middle of college, I came back down to LA, and I started just doing whatever you had to do. Look up agents, look up things. But I got a break pretty quickly. So it took about two. I thought it was going to take 2 years. It took about 3 months.
Mm.
So I was very lucky.
And do you remember your first ever audition for anything?
My first audition, I want to say, I think it was Bronco Billy. It was Clint Eastwood movie. I think that was my
Right.
first audition. It was Bronco Billy or another movie. I think a Billy Wilder movie that's like his last movie with like Jack Lemmon or something. I can't remember. But I remember Bronco Billy. I remember I had to play like Clint Eastwood's son or something. I was like 20 years old.
That's
Um,
awesome.
Maybe it wasn't his son. I can't really remember. I just remember Bronco Billy.
And how was the experience of that audition? Because some people hate auditions and some people love them. I mean, do you like auditioning?
Well, the sad truth is that I used to love auditions,
Mm,
um, because I was the kind of person that I could go in and I could just kind of nail it immediately. I didn't have to spend too much time. It was all instinctual, and it was all like I just kind of would go in and try to make it have as much life as possible. And I was generally pretty good at being natural and spontaneous. And I was just kind of built to do this. But like the more I auditioned and the more I came into contact with people that wanted to work with you in auditions, I became more and more self-conscious. So now I just can't stand it. I can't stand auditioning.
mm. And what was the
Before I was
biggest
like, of course I'll
challenge?
audition. Pardon?
Yeah. What was the biggest challenge that you
I
faced
think
while you
I
were
think I thought
going through that?
I, I thought I was supposed to be much. I kind of was. I kind of was a natural uh, comic actor, and
Mm,
I that didn't really square with everything I was learning about real acting. Um, so I I kind of ignored my comic acting and really tried to focus on being who was the heaviest, back in the early 1980s, the heaviest actors, the people that were that were steeped in the method and they were trained and all this stuff. And I really wanted to be one of those people. I didn't want to be like, hey, I just fell off the truck and I'm an actor. Hollywood likes that. Hollywood likes people that sort of fall off the truck, or that they can say fell off the truck. But I was more like, I liked, all my heroes were like Kevin Kline and William Hurt and John Malkovich and all those people that were really, they weren't just immediate celebrities. They were trained actors.
mm. And then your first movie that you got, believe, correct me if I'm wrong, because obviously all this research, you never know what to believe on Wikipedia and IMDb and all them lots. So according to my research, your first movie was Halloween 2. Is that correct?
Yes, the first like professional movie. I'd done like a couple of student
Mm.
films, but that was the first professional gig. I actually had a screen test about 3 months earlier. It was happening right during finals in school. I had a screen test for this movie called Split Image. So it was for the lead role. So um, I had to like go through all this stuff about contracts and 3 picture deals and all this stuff, and I was sort of losing my mind. I thought, oh, you just audition, you get a part, you do it in the movie, but there was all this other stuff I had to deal with. Michael O'Keefe eventually got the part, but it was kind of a cool movie. I like the script a lot. I like the director, but I didn't get it.
Oh, excuse me. Well, I'm sure Halloween 2 is better remembered. So
Yeah.
congratulations on getting the part of Jimmy, and and obviously going for that movie. We already had seen Halloween. How daunting was it to be in Halloween 2? Because I think sequels, it can be quite daunting because there's a lot of pressure. I mean, how
Yeah.
was that? Filming and being in that movie, knowing that.
The truth is that at that time, sequels, even though there was like The Empire Strikes Back, and there was um, what was the other one? Aliens.
Mm,
Those were good sequels, but in general, the thought is that sequels were kind of cheesy, and so you didn't want to be. Nobody wanted to be in a sequel, and so says me, who was in Jaws: The Revenge. And, and uh, so you kind of you felt like there was a little bit you kind of from the get go you felt like there was maybe you had something that you had to overcome. But so many
mm.
people liked Halloween 2 that over the years have told me they really really liked Halloween 2. They liked it as much as the first one, and so I like, oh great, okay,
Yeah,
go
it's
nuts.
like a fine wine. It matures with age, and it gets better every time you watch it. You know what I've got to say. Films of that age, they've got a sound about them, and they've got a way that they're shot, which I think is wonderful. Which I feel that you don't get into, in films now. I think they've lost something throughout the years. But that being your first, professional gig, as you said, what was the biggest lesson that you learnt working on Halloween 2?
Well, having been used to rehearsals where even if you have a 10-hour rehearsal, you're working
Mm.
all the time. You're either watching what's happening, the scene before you, or you're figuring out what the tone of the piece is, or whatever you got to do, see how you fit in. Um, Even if, like I said, even if you have to be at rehearsal the whole time. But when you're on a film set for 12 hours and you spend about 90% of that time waiting for the lights to get set up and waiting for people to redo takes, and it's really it was exciting for me, but it gets boring after a while, because it was exciting for me because I'm doing a movie, and I made the mistake of, like, there were some actors that would do this. They would stay in character the entire time they were on the set. Even if you were on for 15 hours, they'd stay in character. And if you're doing a horror movie where it's it's like nail biting and drama all the time, it's kind of exhausting. The more sort of the older actors are a little bit like, you take a break when you take a break, and then you figure out how to get back into it. But other actors and the people my age, sort of the standard was you got to be in character all the time.
Mm.
You're not shooting, you're writing stuff down. If you're not writing stuff down, you're rehearsing stuff. If you're not rehearsing stuff, you're going over. You're constantly working, and it all ends up being a little. I mean, good when you're young and you have all that energy, but it all gets exhausting after a while. After you do it about
When
10
you
years.
Yeah, when you say that people on the set stayed in characters, I just got a vision of Dick Warlock that played Michael Myers, just stood in the corner with his mask on during the breaks, just staying in character. But what was it like working with Jamie Lee Curtis? Because obviously, they were the films that really propelled her in her career. What
Well,
what what was it like at such a young age?
I always say this about her. She was, I think she was maybe 2 years older than me, but
Mm.
she had this very adult quality. This very she was always really up. That's what's so funny. She played this really introverted character that she used to comment on all the time. This really kind of introverted, really would be the best way to describe it. Sort of semi-depressed. And in real life, Jamie Curtis she is bigger than life. She's a bigger than life person. She has this incredible energy that's
Mm.
very infectious and a lot of fun to be around.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
mean,
what I'm saying
it's funny you
her
say
character,
about the fan.
her personality,
Sorry,
like part her
sorry, no,
personality
you
is
go.
kind of the Fish Called Wanda character. That's closer
Yeah,
to her real personality. She's just really kind of, she's kind of disarmingly charming.
and then when you talk about the fans, I love it how so many fans still talk about it on the internet now that Jimmy lived, or did Jimmy die?
Yes.
And obviously you've got the theatre cut, and but I read somewhere as well that you commented on how in H2O and in another one that Jamie Lee Curtis's characters' kids have got your surname, which is
Yes. Yes, that's funny.
which
I guess they did their research and, like, well, it had to be Jimmy. It had to be Jimmy Lloyd. So the last name is Lloyd. Some of the kids are named Lloyd. I don't know if all of them are, but some of them are.
hmm,
But then they never really say what happened, other than I think in H2O, I turned into like my character must have been a terrible dad. I was like a drunk or something, or I don't know. I don't really know. I watched. I think I saw that movie a couple times. Maybe I saw it, and I didn't really. That's all I got from it.
well, it's
But I think
crazy
what's
now. The
funny.
franchise is enormous. The franchise is enormous now. I think there's
Yeah,
something like 12 or 13 films or something like that. You got Halloween Kills that is the new one that's coming out as well. So yeah, it's crazy. It really, really is.
with regards to the name, though, I always like to bring up the fact that Jamie's actual last name and the name of her actual kids are the same as my last name, which is Guest, because she's my
Yes.
so
um.
we're not. I
So
don't think we're.
no, you're not related, are you?
I don't think so.
No, no.
He's the
And
Hayden
it's
Guest.
quite Yeah, it's quite surprising that Halloween then was quite a big stepping stone for you, because obviously Nick Castle, which is, everyone knows him for being Michael Myers as well in a lot of the Halloweens. But I think of Nick Castle as the director of The Last Starfighter, the director of The Boy Who Could Fly, which I absolutely adore that movie. I think it's wonderful, those two movies are the blueprint to my childhood. They really are. So Nick Castle sees you in Halloween 2, thinks you're absolutely amazing, then obviously approaches John Carpenter, because apparently you came across as a bit of a Cary Grant from what I've read from an interview from Nick Castle. So how did the job come about for The Last Starfighter?
I was completely unaware of this. I was completely. I mean, I knew that he and John were friends, but I did not know that he was there in the like saw some editing footage and said, "Oh wait, who's that guy?" So I just auditioned like everybody else. I got a call from my agent, and there was a script called Centauri's Recruit, and I got the script, and I read the script, and I thought it was really original and funny and kind of not serious like all the other sci-fi things. It was kind of tongue-in-cheek and funny and goofy and fun, and so I was very intrigued, and so I okay, well, I'll go in there and do the scene, and thank you very much. Okay, good. And I didn't hear from them for 2 months, maybe 3 months, which is very unusual. And then I hear back from them again. Oh yeah, and then they brought me in, and with two other actors and three girls, they matched us up, and that was it. So it was a fairly quick process, because I was unaware that I had sort of a little bit of a leg up from Halloween 2.
Yeah, and it's such a wonderful movie, The Last Starfighter, and even today it still holds up. It really does, because obviously the CGI, looking now back at it, is very dated, but there's something about it, that a charm, and I've got to say it's definitely become a cult hit. So obviously we've covered the part of you getting the role, and you say that when you read the script it was quite quirky. I mean, did you imagine it to end up like it was after you read the script? So you've read the script, you start filming. How was that? Because that must have been weird. Because am I right in saying that you filmed it over 40 days, or
Yeah,
is that
30,
really?
and the initial photography was 38 days, or maybe I worked for 38 days. I think I got 2 days off. But then we did reshoots. We did a week of reshoots in the spring of 1984. Which I'm sure you heard the story of how I was really sick, and they covered up my face
No.
with so much. I was like, I had like 104 temperature, and
Oh
it was
wow, I
really,
didn't know that.
yeah, it was. I caught this flu. I'd been living in New York for like 6 months, and running in the snow, and everything was fine. As soon as I came to LA, boom, I just got sick.
Mm.
So yeah, we had to do reshoots, and we just had a week to do them. And the one night that we were in the pickup truck, and I'm laughing like a maniac. I was like on death's door.
Bless you.
I told people that I had 104 temperature, and they said, "You're supposed to be dead. You have 104 temperature." But
Oh, that's
I wasn't.
awesome. Uh, and then on screen, the cast of the movie is just fantastic. You've got some amazing
Yeah.
actors that you're acting opposite. Robert Preston's last appearance was in The Last Starfighter. What was he like, good old Centauri? To act with on screen and no off screen.
Well, I've said this several times because it's the thing that really sticks out the most. He was in his late 60s, I think, when he
Mm.
did this, and we did mostly night shoots. And he has to have all that energy, that great Preston energy, and he always had it. And not only did he always have it, he would rehearse with me, because I was a freak. We only got two takes, and so I had to rehearse as many times as I possibly could, and they didn't have time to really rehearse us that much. So I would knock on his trailer door and say, "Hey, Press, can you want to run the scene?" And he would. He totally was like, I grew up in the theater, kid. That's what we do. And he's smoking like 3 packs a day, and he's had a big, huge head,
Mm.
thick head of hair, and he's just this kind of bigger than life character. And of course, when I was a kid, I used to listen to Trouble in River City and the cut of Music Man. I always liked songs
Mm.
that had like tons of words, that just like with
Yeah.
these sort of just railroad of lyrics. Um, and so I used to do that. So it was weird to kind of see him in real life, But I was also preoccupied with like, I got to carry this movie. So I was less distracted by like, oh, this guy's a big star. I was more like, I hope I don't screw this up.
No, but it's awesome. I mean, the chemistry you have on screen is a testament. It really, really is, and it is a wonderful movie. What was Nick like to be directed by? Was he a good director to you?
Oh, oh yeah, absolutely. Because first of all, one of the most important things as a director, especially when you have a very unsure um, idea about how the special effects are going to look, because it had never been done before, right? The computer generated effects had never really been done before. They were done in more of in a simpler sort of resolution or format in Tron, but it was like brand new frontier territory. So they didn't know how a lot of the stuff was going to look, and so you need to know. Pacing is the most important thing when you're directing a film. You have to have the pacing. You can't just leave it up to the editor. It's got to be on the set as well. And so Nick was very sort of acutely aware of that, and very, he knew when there had to be a lot of energy, and he knew when it could back off, and I
Mm.
didn't. To me, it's just like I just see all my scenes, and I try to do them all in order. One great thing he did is he got together with me and we ran all the scenes in order, because that's,
Mm.
to me, that's the real art in acting. If you're the lead character, is you have to sort of like a puzzle. You have to piece together the character's arc, and if you do it out of sequence and you don't go through it, at least you can go through it in your head like by yourself, but it's better to do it with somebody else. So I always encourage people to rehearse together as a cast first, and so everybody knows where they've been, where they're going. You know,
Yeah.
it's easier. You can decide by yourself and live in your own private Idaho, as they say, but it's better to do it with the cast. And so when I
Mm.
realized that that's not how films are made, unless they do that on purpose, usually films are like, okay, here's, scene 61 is your first one, go. And
And you know what? It's crazy to think it's 37 years ago when that came
yeah,
out. It's nearly hitting its 40th anniversary. Do you know, it may be a bit early, but do you know if there's anything special happening for the 40th anniversary?
I don't. I do know the writer John, and Gary Whitta, fellow Brit of yours. You know who Gary is.
Yeah.
Um, they're working on a sequel, on getting it done, and getting it done the way they want to get it done, and I'm supposed to be in it. I'm not
Yes.
the lead character. I think I'm the lead character, but I'm supposed to be in it, and that'll be
That is
fun.
awesome.
Get it going. I think they have there's a lot of groundswell. There's a lot of people really like this movie, and
Mm.
they never know. A lot of people don't understand why they sequelize everything else. There's the most
Mm.
absurd sequels you can imagine, and
Mm.
and yet we never did one here. So I hope that happens.
Yeah, I mean, over 37 years, you would have thought they would have done a sequel by now, because I know that there were two sequels that were planned in the works after the last Starfighter.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Uh,
I didn't know there was like a trilogy, like a Back to the Future thing, where they have
yeah,
like.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. And funny you say Back to the Future. Ron, I think his name Ron Cobb,
yeah.
the guy that designed the Century sports car, was the
Right.
guy that later went on to design the DeLorean in Back to the Future.
Pretty much the same car.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, it
gotta say.
is. Yes, yes,
Pretty,
yeah, yeah. I suppose you've got a Doc Brown and you're Marty McFly.
yeah. And it's funny
um,
because when I was in college, I lived in this small apartment complex, and two doors down was Mike Fox. He he lived there 2 doors down. So I was his next door neighbor for like 2 years.
Oh wow,
Yeah,
wow.
he's great. I remember when he moved out, he gave me all this stuff, all of his Shakespeare posters, and he gave me his. I have this Some Girls, Rolling Stones Some Girls record. Do you know that record?
I
It's got
don't.
the it's got all. It was kind of a lawsuit record, and and there were Marilyn Monroe and Jane Mansfield and all these people were kind of on the front of it, Raquel Welch and everybody, and they decided they couldn't let him use it, so
Yeah.
they they used the member of the bands. But Mike's from Canada, so he had the Canadian one, and there wasn't a lawsuit in Canada. So I have Mike's old Some Girls record, which is I'm
Ah,
a bit of a Rolling
yes.
Stones fan, so it's kind of important to
I'm
me.
just looking up
Yeah.
the actual cover there. I don't know if you could see it. Is that the one?
Yep, that's the one. But see
Yeah.
what they had to do, they had to use like Charlie and Keith and everybody in the with the wigs and the pointy bras and everything because they couldn't use, which is hilarious in itself. But originally it was Marilyn Monroe and Jay Mansfield and Raquel Welch.
Well, you can certainly see Mick Jagger
Yeah,
in some of them. He stands like out like a sore thumb, as they say. So then we go on to I want to talk about Jaws: of Revenge because I think it's an awesome movie. I really do. I really enjoyed it, and Jaws
I
for me has made me scared of the sea. It's given me the fear of the sea, even to this day. And
oh
I've
boy,
been to South Africa. I've been in boats. I've seen great whites up close, and
really?
the petrifying. Literally, I got offered to go into a cage, but I didn't. I hadn't had my open water certificate by then, so I couldn't
Right.
go into the cage, and so I stayed by the boat. And the one thing they were doing, they were throwing chum into the water, which they're trying to ban now because obviously that's not good for the sharks because they're supposed to be naturally hunting. And they
Yeah.
hang pieces of meat over the side of the boat, and the great whites come up and take the meat.
You froze.
Literally, I was
Oh, good.
petrified.
Okay.
I was petrified. I didn't take any pictures. I got my phone out and I just couldn't take any pictures. I was just petrified. But Jaws the movie, I think a great franchise really is. And Jaws of Revenge sees you, as Mike Brody, and in the Bahamas. You wouldn't think that sharks would come to the Bahamas, but good old Jaws, he decides to
Yeah.
take a trip. I've got some questions here from a
Yeah. Why
fan
not?
called
He wasn't
Steve.
doing anything.
Yeah, I've got a question here from Stephen Bayman, who is a friend and a big fan of yours. He wanted to ask, when you first got the call about appearing in the movie Jaws of Revenge, was it a really big deal to you to be in a Jaws movie, or was it just another job?
Um, I liked the first movie a lot. Like I loved the first movie. Um, I sorry, there's a plane.
It's
It's
all right.
really hot where I am. So all my um, let's see. It was originally called Jaws '87, and my my agent, I didn't audition for it. They just straight up offered me the part, and I had been doing plays earlier that year. It was 1986. This has happened in like late
Mm.
1986, and I hadn't done a movie in a long time, and I read the script and I was like, this is great. This is a great part. They really fleshed the guy out. He really kind of carries the movie, and even though it's absurd that there's a shark that's following his family, it had the script. The writer was able to sort of tweeze the storyline so that you could follow the motivations, and it didn't seem so outrageous. It just seemed kind of
Mm.
like, oh well, we got an unusual situation here, and this is how people react. And so I was like, great, let's do it. And um, we read through it a bunch of times, and then they they realized that a lot of the special effects they couldn't actually get. They couldn't actually get some of the sequences that they had planned to get.
Mm.
It just wasn't physically possible, and they hired the guy really late, and the special effects guy, and he didn't have a lot of lead time, and they really ramped it up. It was like, I don't know if you know this, but from let's make another Jaws movie to we've cast another Jaws movie to we're shooting another Jaws movie to it's out, all was a period of about 7 months.
Really?
So I think I got the call in November of '86, and by June, the movie was out. So, and we actually did reshoots after a week after the movie came out. I mean, they changed the ending a little bit, but it was very, very fast tracked. Although the actual shooting took a long time because it was really difficult to get some of those stunts, the shark stunts.
Mm.
There was no CGI; they didn't use any CGI, so or that I knew of. So when they realized that they couldn't do some of those shots, what they ended up having to do is mix up the. They had changed the order of a lot of the script. They kind of chopped up the script and sort of moved things around so that they could get some of the shots and all of the moment to moment justification that I loved so much was gone. So I was freaked out. I was totally freaked out, but they didn't listen to me because I was like, okay, big deal. It's a Jaws movie. Just, run with it. So we did, and I was able to, and I had to sort of completely reconfigure what I had going on. And it was fine. It was, if you liked it, I'm glad. It was great. It had a, everybody knows what something was and then what it ends up being. And,
Yeah.
It's like Casablanca. And everybody thought it was a, I'm not comparing Jaws to Casablanca, but everyone thought it was a total dog. And, it's a classic movie. So,
But it had a great cast. You had Michael
yeah.
Caine,
I love
which
Michael.
he's a legend. Yeah, and then the next question was, how did you get along with Lorraine Gary? Because this was her big return to the franchise. I mean, how was she to work with?
She was fantastic. She was really, really just a real sweet person and a good actor. I mean, we do our reviews and stuff. She was very present and very, very real and very connected. She didn't have this like Hollywood, like, leave me alone. I'm doing my own little thing. She was really, she would reach out, and personally, she would reach out, to me. And she was really a lovely woman. And I know she loves her kids. And so she thought of me as like, for that movie, she thought I was like a kid. And she was just really lovely person.
I think one of the best scenes in Jaws of Revenge doesn't involve a shark. It was when you're at the dinner table and your daughter is copying you. And it's a throwback to his dad with his brother, and I just thought it was like a really nice scene. Obviously, in the other Jaws films, it was a reputation to have the shark play up a bit and break down a bit. Did the shark behave during your filming?
Not at all. I mean, it took. We thought it was going to take 10 weeks, and it took 5 months.
Right.
So, and most of that time. Most of the acting scenes that didn't involve the shark, we just banged through those in 3 weeks. And then the rest of the time was waiting for the shark to work. And I felt bad for the guys. I mean, the visibility was not great. We shot mostly in March and April, which is not the best time because of the way the seas are kind of churned up. We had to wait for days of totally clear skies, which was tough. You wouldn't think so, but it was. And then we had to wait for totally clear visibility. I did second unit stuff, where the shark's chasing me underground. We go through the wreck, the Bond wreck, and I did that on my days off. So it wasn't always the conditions weren't always great, and it's too bad that the CGI was not as sophisticated as it ultimately became. because that was a lot of downtime.
I mean, it would be interesting to see if they didn't rush it, as you say, from like 7 months. If they didn't rush it and actually put the time and the money into it, what movie it would have been. So,
Yeah,
but again, I enjoyed it. I think it's a good movie. But what is your proudest, achievement in film and TV? I mean, what project or film or TV show will always have a place in your heart?
I would say in TV. Well, my first job was Lou Grant. I loved Lou Grant. I was like 20 years old. I was like a reporter at Lou Grant. That was really fun. Um, so that I it had that. I sort of have a special place in my heart for that. TV. I did a TV show called Life Goes On, which I really liked the writing and I liked the whole vision of the whole thing.
Mm,
I don't know if you got that over
we did
over
get it.
there.
No.
It was Bill Smitovich, Patty LaPone, and they're the basically the hook is they're just a regular American family, and one of their kids has Down syndrome, and it was played by Chris, who has Down syndrome, and he did a fantastic job. And there's other children, they have other children, and they're just the writing and the kind of the vision of it, I thought was really kind of sweet and cool and honest, and um, I just thought that was a great show. And then I did a movie called The Wizard of Loneliness in 1987, actually right after I finished Jaws: The Revenge. And I had been aware of that for about a year. Casting director Pat McCorkle from New York had given it to me, saying, "We think you should be this guy when the movie gets made." And I was like, "Fantastic!" So I loved, loved, loved that script, and I loved the people that worked on it. I loved all the actors. I loved the director. I loved the writers. Everybody. That movie was out for about 2 weeks, and very few people saw it. Now I guess it's streaming. It's been streaming for the last year, 2 years or something on Amazon,
Right.
which is nice. But that was just that was my favorite thing. It was set during the Second World War, and it was in New England, and it's really beautiful. And we shot it in the fall, and everybody's got these cool. I ride this cool old Rudge Whitworth British motorcycle. I don't know if you know what a Rudge Whitworth is, but
No.
it's an old cool British motorcycle with the fenders, and the little license plate on the front,
Yeah.
And I dug it. I got to do that. I love motorcycles, especially British motorcycles. Um,
Yeah.
and I loved my character, and Leah Thompson and Lucas Haas and Dylan Baker and John Randolph and Toniak, and there's a lot of great people in it.
And then looking at your past career, I came across something that has really stunned me. So what I didn't realize was Elvis Presley, Johnny Cash, Carl Perkins, and Jerry Lee Lewis got together and made music. Um, I didn't realize this. The world should have stopped moving because having all these greats together is just unbelievable. And they made it into a Broadway musical. And I was looking on YouTube, and there you was singing Johnny Cash on, I think
Yeah.
it was the Letterman show.
Yep.
Wow, Lance, you're amazing. Honest to God, Johnny Cash down to a T. I mean, how did you get involved with this show? Because it's called A $1 Million Quartet, and it was on Broadway. How did you get involved?
The I guess the short version is I mean it's a good story. Maybe I'll tell you the whole story. The I was doing a play at this theater in Los Angeles, and I was playing this character, and for some reason, first of all, when I was a kid, my first record, my brother gave it to me. It was called Johnny Cash's San Quentin, and it had Boy Named Sue and Wreck the Old 97 and Wanted Man and
Mm.
all these things. And that was the first record I ever owned. I was 9, and so I just played it all the time. And I just, I became very fond of Johnny Cash. And when I would sing, Wreck of the Old 97, they gave him his orders in Monroe, Virginia, and I would do it like Johnny Cash, just because I was a little kid. And then when I got older, my voice changed. I realized I could kind of do it like Johnny Cash, but it was just a joke, it was just kind of fun. I was like, oh yeah, sing
Mm.
the Johnny Cash. Boy Named Sue. I love Boy Named Sue, even though he didn't write it. So that was just something I kind of always was able to do, and I didn't think about it. And anyways, I did this play, and I started reading this part. It takes place in Arkansas, and the voice just kind of came out of me when I was doing this play. And I always thought Johnny Cash was from West Texas. I don't know why, but I always thought he was from West Texas. So I talked to the dialogue coach and I said, I really want to do this voice. And John's, I don't know if he's from Arkansas. He's from, West Texas. I thought. And she was like, no, you can't do it. You can't do it. You can't do it. You can't do it. And I was like, I really want to do it. And then I looked up, and he actually is from Arkansas. Not only is he from Arkansas, he's from 15 miles away from where the play takes place. It's a true story about the last man to be hung in the state of Arkansas. So I'm like, hey, got it. I'm like, hey, gotcha. So awesome. She's like, okay. So I basically based the character on just John. I mean, it was just easy to do. It just came out of me. And so then the next play I did, it was a completely different play. It was a Spanish Golden Age play. That was between 1550 and 1600s. And they wrote all these comedies. And I was in that with a fellow actor, a girl that I met. Her name's Megan. And we did this play together. And then I get a phone call from Megan. She said, I'm working on this guy that I'm working with. He has this play. He wants to set up a reading, and we need somebody who's tall and who can play the guitar. I'm tall. I can play the guitar. So and right before I hang up, she goes, oh, yeah, also, you have to be Johnny Cash. Okay. Like, to me, it was like, no problem. So I show up, and it's the script of $1 Million Quartet. And I just started reading it, and they're just like, you're the guy. And I was way older than I was supposed to be. I was like 45 years old, and John was like 23 at the time. And I just started doing it, and we never knew anything was going to happen with this, but we did readings, and we did more readings and more readings, and they changed the script, and they moved it around, and they went through all these different incarnations. The tone had changed, and the tone went from like this really Nashville style kind of super realistic kind of slice of life to more of a Broadway show kind of thing. And we just kind of hung with it. I stayed with it, and I was always the guy they called when they needed a John. So I did it. We did a tryout in Issaquah, Washington, and we did Daytona Beach, Florida. And then we did at the Goodman in Chicago. We did a month there, and then we had a sit down at the Apollo Theater in Chicago I wasn't there, but they lasted 7.5 years. So it was one of the longest running plays, either at that theater or in Chicago. I can't remember. But anyways, after 2 years, we got a phone call from the Tony Awards, and they wanted us to play in the 2009 Tony Awards. They wanted us to play during the breaks. So we schlepped our stuff up, and they were like, we got all our instruments because everybody plays their own instrument. It's not it's not piped in music or anything. It's a live rock and roll show. So we went in there and did it, and 6,000 people at Radio City, and half of them were like, why is this not a show here? So we got a deal that night, and then the next thing you know, 6 months later, we were called up to go up to New York and do it. Go start our residency at the Nederlander Theater. So
that's awesome.
I never thought I would ever be on Broadway, and I never thought I'd be on Broadway in this show. So it was just fun. It was really fun to do all that stuff. I got to, like I said, I got to be in a rock band for 5 years, which is longer
and
than a lot of rock.
Any plans on bringing Johnny Cash back at all in the future?
I'm not in charge of that. I don't have the rights on his life. They've made the movie, and I think I don't know. I think they could make another one. They could make him older, because that movie ends with the Folsom Prison. The Folsom Prison concert, and he really had a considerable career after that, but it wasn't
Mm,
quite as dramatic. I don't think.
yeah.
But that's, to me, that's when a lot of the good stuff was written. I like
Mm,
post Folsom Prison, San Quentin and all that stuff.
mm.
I like that era better myself. I know that's sacrilege, but I like it.
that's, that's fair enough. Um, and then we talk about moving on to conventions before we bid farewell to you. So conventions, I've got to say that every time you come over to the UK, you always attend a convention that I can't get to. So I had a
Oh no,
friend a few
I've done like
years
four of them.
back. I
I think I've
know.
done four.
I had a friend that went to one in Milton Keynes, and I've got
Yeah.
downstairs hanging on the wall a picture of you signed, and you signed it to me. But my friend actually got it for me. Is there any
Oh,
plans on coming over to the UK once this pandemic sort of settles down?
well, it has been kind of a regular thing for me. Right before the pandemic shut down, I was going probably every 2 years, every other year
Mm,
sometimes. So there was a period of time when, I mean, of course, after I stopped doing the show,
mm,
uh, I had more sort of time to do that because weekends we have 5 shows in the weekend. So you go
mm,
to those conventions, you go for a weekend, and I'll
mm.
miss probably a week's worth of shows, and which I did a couple of times. But then after the show was over, I went to a lot. I probably, like I said, I did another three, I think, after
Yeah.
that. So it's only
And
been
do you enjoy doing conventions?
absolutely, especially going to the UK, because I always go and
Yeah.
then I stay for a week to go see some shows, and I've got a friend that lives over there in Stevenage,
Yeah.
um, and he was actually the Carl. His name's Rob Lyons. He was the Carl in Million Dollar Quartet, and he was the Carl that went over. I don't know if you saw the show over there, but when it was in the West End,
Mm.
he played Carl Perkins in the West End production.
Oh, awesome.
Oh, hi, Rob,
And
if you're listening.
yeah, what's the weirdest experience you've had with a fan? So it could be weird good or weird bad.
Oh, boy. You mean at a convention?
Yeah, yeah, convention.
That's fairly easy because um, and I am not a judgmental person at all, but I basically just couldn't believe the sort of physics of this, the chemistry of this. But I was in Texas, and uh, this woman came up to me, and she was probably, I don't know, 10 years younger than me, and she started talking to me, and then she just burst out crying. And she was crying uncontrollably, and she wasn't like a weirdo at all. She was like a totally normal person, and she
Oh,
just could not stop weeping. And she had to walk away. And about a half an hour later, she came back and she's like, I'm really sorry about that. I don't really know what came over me. And she, and I felt really bad for her. I was like, hey, I met Bob Odenkirk in the Trader Joe's, and I was totally starstruck. I just thought, this is like 3 years ago, and I just was like, oh my God, it's Bob Odenkirk. I love Bob Odenkirk, and I was like, look, this happens to us too, And that's what I said to her, and she sort of calmed down, and she was like, yeah, I don't know, but it was really strange. It was like it's like I was Paul McCartney in 1964. It was it was like, and
well,
I'm
I
not.
wouldn't complain. You're making women cry,
Oh yeah.
so that must be a good thing. That must be a good thing. And what do you get recognised for the most at conventions? Is it Halloween? Is it Jaws? The Last Starfighter?
What's interesting is that there are more, at least in my world, there are more horror conventions than there are
Hmm.
other conventions, and so a lot of the people know me from Halloween 2, and they were like, "Oh yeah, and you were in Last Starfighter too." It's like, yeah, thank part, yeah. Um,
and and what
so
do you want to be recognised for the most?
that I'm happy with the last Starfighter, because that
Yeah.
was the most work. Playing Jimmy was fun, but I mostly just ran around and asked her if she wanted a Coke. It's like, you know, that was, and I was into it. I was like,
Yeah.
I was full on trying to be a good actor and everything. But yeah.
And the last question before we bid farewell: have you actually kept anything from any of your past projects? Any costumes, props, anything around the house hanging up that the studios don't know about?
No, I didn't. I did not steal anything. People gave me. I mean, at that point, I just wouldn't have. I wouldn't have like kept a helmet or anything like that because I just didn't have any space in my apartment. I wouldn't have done that. They had about 3 or 4 pairs of Levi's that they had for me, and they wouldn't fit anybody else. So they said, "You can have these." And I think I had some shoes. We were sponsored by Adidas shoes, so I had a couple of Adidas T-shirts and a few pairs of shoes. I think I got my girlfriend at the time. I think I got her a pair of shoes, and basically jeans and shoes,
Okay,
which wore. They
because
all
because
wore
I've
out.
got to say, if you had the helmet from Last Starfighter or the suit, that would be worth a fortune right now because the sponsors of my show, Prop Store, they sell and auction off screen use props and costumes from the movies and TV, and it's crazy what they go for. It really, really is.
I
Uh,
know somebody has the outfit. Somebody has the uniform and the helmet. Somebody has it. They paid a bunch of
wow.
money for it. I don't know. They wouldn't let us even have stuff. I remember one time I tried to. We were building a theater at the time, and I tried to hit up the art director for some 3/4 inch plywood. I thought maybe once the sets were done, I could just hack them up and bring them to the theater and make a stage out of the
Mm.
plywood. But he said, no, 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 we got another science fiction movie up. We're going to use a lot of the same basic structures. He gave me some gels. He gave me some light gels. Thanks.
just 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 light gels. Wow. Well, very generous. Lance, you've been a great guest. Thank you so
Nice
much for
to talk
spending the
to you.
time with me. I've had a great time. Before we go, what's next for you? Are you just living, relaxing? Is there anything coming out or anything that we can see that's
I don't, I was involved in this one thing which your viewers may enjoy. It was a really, really funny sketch comedy play about the making of the Star Wars holiday special.
right?
Do you know what this is?
No.
You've never heard of the Star Wars holiday special?
I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it. But I'm
Well, it's
intrigued.
it's uh, it's it's geek lore. I mean, it's this thing they
I'm
made
I'm
in.
I'm making a note. I'm making a note of this
You
because
won't be able to get through all of it. It's one of the worst things ever aired on network television. They aired it once. Everybody in the Star Wars universe disavows it, and it's just a classic example of sort of Hollywood tone deaf promotion thing. They did a Star Wars holiday special and they aired it on November in 1978, and it was some sort of thing to keep everybody thinking about Star Wars between A New Hope and Empire, and it was just it's kind of comic genius in a really unintentional way.
excellent,
So
excellent. I'm gonna definitely check
there's
that out.
so the making of it, there's no reason to like actually reproduce the piece, but the making of it was quite brilliant. And my friend Andrew wrote this play, and we did it in Hollywood for I don't know, for 2 months or something, and the people that saw it just really dug it, and a lot of people want to know when it's going to happen next. So that when we had plans to do it again, and then the pandemic hit, but it was really a lot of fun to do. People, but we play like 6 different characters. We got different hats and wigs and noses and stuff, and it's really, really quite good.
Oh,
So
that's awesome. We'll keep an eye out for that. Lance, thank you so much. It's been from a fan. It's been excellent chatting with you.
I'm
Look after
happy.
yourself. Keep safe, and thank you.
All right, Brian. Nice to talk to you.
You
Take it
too.
easy.